Welcome back to Mean Green Game Day. I'm your host, Jazra Williams. I'm joined by Jalen Tucker, Connor Hibbett, and Wyatt Schott. We're going to be talking about all things college football today, but let's start with our UNT Mean Green Eagles versus Memphis. They went out to Memphis and ended up losing 52-44. It was a close loss. It was an eventful game.
Yes.
Guys, how are we feeling about their performance?
I think it was definitely one of those shootout type games. It was really just offense against offense. Who's going to be able to score the highest points? We predicted already on the show last week that it was going to be a high scoring game. So it definitely lived up to its expectations. Unfortunately, our defense was not able to cover that run. Of course, Seth Hennigan, a strong quarterback, was able to, have those passing plays, have those running plays. So it was definitely one of those nail-biter type games.
Well, Jalen was in a win-win scenario no matter what, so she's feeling great.
I don't know if I'm feeling great, but, I'm feeling something.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, Seth Hennigan for Heisman, I guess, for Jalen. I thought we played pretty well. I thought we played very well offensively. Defensively, we know what we are at this point. But I thought the defense played well at times. They actually got a few stops in this game. I honestly thought that was about our 8+ effort. I thought what could have gone right did go right. We converted half of our fourth down attempts. We kept ourselves in the game. We were never really out of the game. We had a lead in the fourth quarter on the road against the preseason AAC favorite. I thought we played about as well as we could have, really.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And from a fan perspective, the game was wildly entertaining. I mean, you have nearly 100 points scored between the two teams combined. It was just a really entertaining game. It was really fun to watch. Unfortunately, we come out on the wrong end of it. However, we did show some really good things. We showed some fight. I didn't think this game would be that close. We knew going into it that we would have to score probably 45 or more to win the game. We scored just under that at 44. The defense just had no chance at stopping Memphis' passing game. We knew that going into it. There was really just no realistic shot that they were going to stop the passing attack. They didn't. However, I'm really proud of how the offense performed.
I mean, yeah, if you see that, we look at Morris, he had 445 yards for that game, 3 touchdowns. He only threw 1 interception, so it wasn't a terrible game for Morris for that. And then obviously D.T. Sheffield, someone who literally was making catch after catch after catch. We were definitely relying on him heavily because him switching to that running back position was definitely helpful for us UNT Eagles there. So, yeah, it was a tight game, close game. I think these are one of the games that I think we can say, you know what, it wasn't a bad loss. It wasn't one of those games where we got blown out. As I think we were obviously favored really close for the game anyways. So, I mean, I'm not disappointed on that loss because we have stronger games to play. I mean, we have Tulane today, and then we have the Army still. So, yeah, we have those still. I just hope we can win at least one of these games. Maybe against Tulane. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm definitely not disappointed in the way that we played on that day. But what was a little bit disappointing is the fact that we knew that Memphis is a heavy passing team, and if we weren't going to be able to stop that, we could have at least stopped the run. And Mario Anderson was able to get 4 touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns, which is crazy if we know that they're a passing team already. So the bleeding has to stop somewhere. And I think we can transition into talking about UNT's defense. I know that's something we've been focused on pretty much the whole season. I think that it's really important going forward for sure for them to lock down these specific points. Like, are we going to be good at stopping the run, or are we just going to suck at everything? I think that we've definitely improved so far, and this Tulane game will definitely show, what more do we have? I think we've seen everything that UNT really can do, but as far as in this Memphis game, I think that was a little bit disappointing to see how many running touchdowns they were able to get.
I think we discussed this last week on the show. We are what we are. Last year, the biggest improvement that I've seen defensively is that we are at least able to play our gaps. So we are pretty fundamentally sound, but we do get pushed around. So it's like, what can you do to maximize your talent? We pretty much brought back the same guys in our front 6, front 7 from last year. So it's like, what is the floor? Can the floor be raised? That was something that I talked about in the preseason with North Texas. And I think the floor is a little bit higher because we play well as a team. But from a talent perspective, it's not like the ceiling goes way up where it's like, oh my gosh, these guys struggled a little bit last year, but this year they've been awesome. If you have the same bunch of guys, that's probably not going to happen. So I think we are pretty much getting the A+ performance from UNT on a week-to-week basis. Jalen, I love the point that you brought up. It's about how we played. And I think too many people focus on the what. Did you win or did you lose? There's this pretty large gray area for a lot of teams. If you look in the preseason, I don't think many UNT fans would have put us at the level of a Memphis. So if we're almost beating a Memphis, then that suggests, okay, if we're not at that level of a Memphis, and you need things to go right to win that kind of game. And we almost won that game. So things went about as good as it could have been. So what can go right did go right. That is a good performance. To me, that's showing an A-plus quality performance.
I think it was an A-plus quality performance, but more from the offensive perspective, obviously, because we scored 44 and we allowed 52. And like you said, we are kind of what we are at defense. Personally, I think staff changes have to be made this offseason when it comes to defense. We have shown improvement in the run game, but not improvement in the pass defense. It's regressed, and it's just kind of flip-flopped. I don't think this performance is acceptable from the defense. I don't think you're going to win a lot of games with this kind of defensive performance. And if there was some year-to-year improvement, I think there was some slight improvement, but I think that's just kind of some continuity of the same guys returning. I just would have liked to see a bigger jump from the defensive side of the ball going in from last year to this year, second year in the scheme, second year into Macapone. It hasn't really happened. I just don't think this staff defensively sticks around for another year in North Texas.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think our transfer portal was our friend for this year. I think we brought in a lot of strong people, definitely offensively side of the ball. I mean, you have people like DT Sheffield, Chandler Morris, who definitely have stepped up. I mean, right now he's been throwing over. He has 2,000 yards right now for the season right now. We're like midway through the season. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's the defensive is the problem. I mean, we're having the same coaching staff go into year 2. So there's excuses that need to be met in that. We're understanding, like, yeah, we're not covering the pass defense. That's what's allowing teams to score on us. So teams like Tulane, who are people that want to run the ball, who want to throw the ball more, and we're not covering that spread. These kind of games we have to guarantee to win for the rest of the season. I mean, we're close to bowl eligibility. We just need one more game to win. I mean, obviously, we look at the rest of our schedule. We definitely have that manageable schedule to win teams like Eastern Carolina and obviously like Temple. So I think we just have to step up our level going into the rest of our season, because I just want to see UNT step up defensively for sure.
I think when it comes to like staff changes, and you talk about staff changes, you have to like evaluate yourself and like look internally and be like, okay, well, what are our goals? And I think our goals at UNT should be to compete for the American Conference Championship.
Yes.
I feel like that's a pretty reasonable goal of considering that's the conference we're in. We want to win our conference.
Right.
And I think under the current regime defensively, we don't have a chance to compete for the American Conference because the defense just hasn't been good enough to win it. And so when you're evaluating if you want to make staff changes, I think that's what you have to look at, and I think we fit the criteria.
Man, the hardest thing for a lot of these coaches, especially at the G5 level nowadays, is that they're banking on the transfer portal. Because if you somehow develop a guy, maybe he was like a high 3-star recruit, you really mold him into what his ceiling is, you develop him to play to his max, then he has like a breakthrough season. You can't keep him because he's going to get poached to go to a Power 4 school. So now you have to try to go in the transfer portal to find your guys for that upcoming year. That's what, of course, we didn't really have many guys on our defense transfer up to the Power Conference from last year, but we relied on the transfer portal this year in our secondary. Now there were some off-the-field issues in the summer, so we didn't have our guys that we were really counting on that we got through the portal for our secondary. And what's happened is, as Wyatt discussed a couple minutes ago, our secondary hasn't really been all that great this season. It's because those portal players haven't cashed in. That's what's so difficult for these G5 coaches nowadays, is that it's harder to really keep the guys in your program that you want to develop. It's really hard to manage a roster for these coaches.
It is. It's not fair. They're being asked to do less with more,
Yes.
more than ever.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, some of it is just luck. Some of it is just luck. Stuff like this offseason when you had the legal issues with the secondary players that you brought in from the transfer portal, and it just doesn't work out, and now you're left with what you have, and it's not fair, but that's just how it is. That's just how it is.
That's how the cookie crumbles at that point.
Yeah, I discussed this on the very first show. If the portal players that you're banking on to be your go-to guys or your leaders, if those guys aren't available for either injuries or other related issues, what's going to happen? Because if you're relying on the transfer portal, what's going to happen is you're not going to have backups. No one is going to transfer to a place to be a backup. They are entering the portal to be a starter.
Time, yeah.
So if you are relying on the transfer portal coming into a season, which we have for 2 straight years, what happens when 2 or 3 guys have some off-the-field issues, or if 1 or 2 injuries occur for a certain position group? There's going to be some questions.
I definitely agree. I think that throughout all of our shows, we've been talking about, honestly, how bad UNT's defense has been and the progression there. But let's talk about some offense. Let's talk about UNT's offense. Right now, Chandler Morris is sitting at 3rd in total offense in the nation, which is great. I love to see UNT that high. Let's talk about Chandler Morris a little bit. It's been a minute since we've highlighted the offense, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked earlier, like he has over 2,000 yards right now during the season. He's been someone that's been a utilized leader for UNT. He's able to run the ball, throw the ball. And I mean, we obviously have a few like little interceptions there against Memphis, but I think overall he's been a great utilization for UNT with him coming in the transfer from TCU. And he's definitely stepped up his game from being at TCU, because I don't think he was that strong of a player at TCU, for sure. So I think him being back here in Denton has definitely been able to highlight his actual talents here, for sure.
I'm so happy for Morris this year. Anytime you have a third year or a third school destination for a player, sometimes it's like, okay, how legit is the player? There's a reason why he's entering the portal for a second time for a third destination. But give the staff credit, give Chandler Morris credit. I certainly think he's improved from the early goings of this season. We saw him kind of have his up and downs early on, but he's played very well here recently, and it's why we are discussing UNT in the manner of we have the chance to actually, beat a Tulane if things go right. Right? There's a certain level of program where it's like if things don't go right, you can't win. Chandler Morris is giving us a reason to win.
No, I 100% agree. Chandler Morris has played really well. I've been impressed with the lack of turnovers from Chandler Morris, and that's really what has allowed UNT to be so good this year.
I definitely agree, and don't go anywhere. We're going to be talking about all of our college football updates in the season so far.
Does it look so far? Look so far away. Yes.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounced checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me?
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
There's no harm in wanting to have fun while in college, but it's easy to lose track of how much you've had. Apps like Drink Control and Alkadroid can help keep track of your consumption and blood alcohol levels. If you or someone else does drink too much, the signs of alcohol poisoning are as follows: pale skin, vomiting, confusion, low body temperatures, irregular breathing, blacking out, and it's hard to wake up or cannot be woken up.
Dude, are you okay? Hey, what's wrong? Wake up.
It's an exciting time of year, but it's important to be responsible. If you suspect someone is suffering from alcohol poisoning, get help immediately. You will not get in trouble for seeking help if you are underage. For more info and resources, go to UNT's Division of Student Affairs.
Welcome back to Mean Green Game Day. We're going to be talking about our college football update. My name is Jazra Williams, and I'm back with Jalen Tucker, Connor Hibbett, and Wyatt Schott. So like I said, we're going to be talking about all things college football, and that's where this starts. So it's going to be week 10, right? Week 10. And how are we feeling so far? I know that there's a lot of things that have been kind of spiraling throughout college football the whole season. It's been very eventful. Jalen, what are you thinking for this season?
I think we could talk about how Alabama's been on a downfall. I think they were a team that was very highly well thought during the preseason, and they have not just meet that standard at all. It's college football has definitely been entertaining. We've been having game after games that's been close games. I mean, you have teams like Vanderbilt right now is ranked, guys, 25.
I don't think anybody expected that one.
Because they lost because they won against Alabama. What are the things that are going? We have two teams that are in our conference that are ranked. SMU's ranked up in their 25. So it's definitely been a whirlwind of college football right now.
How about, there's been some chaos this year in college football, no doubt. But we knew the Big 12 was going to be like the conference of chaos when you looked at the 4 power conferences. But I think what's so funny, you have a team that's currently first in the Big 12 standings and currently undefeated with BYU. They're playing at UCF today, who's currently at 3-4, have a losing record. And UCF is the outright favorite, according to Vegas. I think that explains the degree of chaos that the Big 12 is. Maybe outside of Houston, of course, Houston beat TCU. But outside of the Cougars on a week-to-week basis, any team can beat any team. UCF almost beat Iowa State last week. So, like, UCF is obviously better than their record, but my point being here, the Big 12 is a conference of chaos on a week-to-week basis because there's really no separation between the teams.
Absolutely, and I'll touch on the Big 12 even more later on in this show, but someone that I have to talk about is my Texas Longhorns. There's a lot of discussion to be made right now about Texas after that game against Georgia, a game where I was so surprised mainly by the way our offensive line performed against Georgia's defensive line. I didn't think that our floor was as low as it appeared to be in that Georgia game. I thought that our worst game was better than that, and it obviously wasn't. And the thing that I've watched every snap of Quinn Ewers, okay? I've seen every ball that Quinn Ewers has ever thrown since he's been in Texas. I genuinely, at this point in his career, do not believe that he gives Texas the best chance to win every football game for the rest of the season. 99% of times, that wouldn't be the case. Arch Manning just so happens to be the backup quarterback at Texas right now. Quinn Ewers in year 3 is still bad in the pocket, really bad awareness, late with throws, not throwing with anticipation. It's frustrating things that you expect from a first-year quarterback, but not from a third-year starter. This is a guy that's started over 20-plus games, won a lot of big games for Texas. And that's the problem, is that he's won so many big games for Texas, is that it kind of masks a lot of his issues. Winning covers up a lot. You don't have to talk about the bad whenever you just win. And he's won a lot since he's been at Texas. But now he loses, and he loses bad. He loses ugly. He's a big reason why we lost. And I just think that he's not where he needs to be in his progression and his development. I think Arch Manning gives Texas the better chance to win for the rest of the season.
I think it was rough because I think a lot of people were saying that that game against Georgia for Texas was going to be their real test. Because if we look at earlier in their season, they weren't playing many strong people. I mean, they were playing a banged-up Oklahoma team. Obviously, rival games are great, but Oklahoma was already going banged up, and they had to put that true freshman starting, which that poor freshman over there at Oklahoma. He did his best. He tried his best against Texas, and it was rough. But yeah, I agree. That Texas game was ugly. I did not expect the score how it went. We can talk about that bad call towards the end of the game there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. That was crazy.
You know, like, obviously, Texas got fined for all the throwing from the fans, which was insane that was going on. But, I mean, that call was questionable for sure.
And despite all the trash that the Texas fans were throwing on the field, the referees still amounted to more trash than that.
They did. That was a terribly efficient game. And we could have a whole block discussing officials this season.
Yeah,
it's been really bad and really inconsistent.
We should.
Another example. Yeah, we should. Another example of just the inconsistency of reffing in college football.
Yeah, college football has been the most chaotic year. And I really think it stems from so many, I think, outside sources that are going on. You have, like, students having NIL deals and agents and all these different outside sources that are coming in college football, because now we're becoming a mini NFL, basically. Because obviously a lot of these players, they're gearing up to want to go into that NFL draft. Of course, that's most ultimate goals for those athletes. So yeah, it's been the most chaotic time in college football.
I definitely agree, and this is something that a lot of people had talked about before the season even started, whenever the conference realignment was anticipated. And I'm going to talk about a specific conference a little bit later on. But in these new conference realignments, we have, in our American conference, obviously, Army is in and just took over everything. This is the second time they've been in a conference ever, and they just said, give me all of that, actually. We're going to take the whole American. And then as far as the ACC, it's been Clemson and Miami. They're both, one is 5-0, one is 3-0. There's a lot of undefeated teams so far, so there should be some really good games that will shake out towards the end of the season to see whether Clemson or Miami will be on top, and that will also go into our 12-team playoff, which we gave last week. And then obviously, Big 12, we're going to touch on that a lot later, so I'll save that. But I think it's been really interesting to see, also Big 10, another thing that we need to mention. Oregon is first. I hate that. Just a side note. And then Indiana versus Oregon, that's going to be great. And then Penn State. I love how in this conference realignment, I don't think anybody expected it to be this chaotic. As far as the logical sense of, like, traveling from over 2 different time zones.
Yeah, no,
that's definitely very inconvenient for the teams and the athletes, and that was anticipated. But as far as money-wise, like TV contracts, it's been great.
It's entertaining.
They did their job.
Yeah, so it's entertaining for us fans knowing that we get to see all these high level of football. But obviously for these players, it's definitely more demanding on their bodies for sure.
So in terms of, like, the chaos that we've seen in college football this year, I think it kind of has to do with the transfer portal and a lot of these teams not having like that continuity. And so on a week-to-week basis, we're seeing like some teams that they may not look great one week, but then they start clicking with all the new transfers the following week. And that's why I think that's why we have seen a lot more variance. By the end of the season, I think the top teams are still going to look the best, and the worst teams are still going to struggle to win. But that week-to-week chaos, I think we're going to see that more regularly on an annual basis.
I agree. You kind of have to like readjust how you view college football because of how the transfer portal has impacted the game, just in terms of like roster changes year over year and like real chemistry like between teams like clicking throughout part of the year, like that's real. And we're going to see that more and more. So you have to kind of change your lens of college football.
I definitely agree with that point, Wyatt. And we're going to be talking about a lot more things as far as college football, some of our midseason storylines, so don't go anywhere.
Does your club or organization look like this? Well, what if you can make it look like this? Wow! Hi, Dilly Days here with a special TV offer. NTTV wants to air a promotional video for your club or organization. We air on channels Charter 192 and Frontier 46. Whether you have an idea or not, we want to help you create the perfect promotion that gives you the credit and recognition that you deserve. Our team of professional cinematographers works around the clock to make your promo the best it can be. So contact untpromos@gmail.com today to get started on your promotional adventure. But wait, that's not all. If you email right now, I'll double the offer. What? What do you mean we can't double it?
I love it. We air it tonight.
Success!
Has this ever happened to you?
My bike! My bike is gone!
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today.
Welcome back. We're going to be talking about some of our mid-season storylines. As we said, it's going to be week 10 of college football, and there's a lot of things that's been going on, so we want to keep y'all updated with where our heads are at so far. I'll go ahead and start. What is going on with the SEC right now? I think everybody was really confused. A lot of people were excited for the new SEC with Oklahoma coming in, and then obviously a lot of people leaving, and all of that stuff going on. But for right now, I don't think anybody expected Texas A&M to be leading the SEC right now. They're also leading the SEC right now. We have LSU right under them. We have Georgia, Tennessee. Then we have Missouri. Texas is hit a lot lower. Vanderbilt is above Alabama. Guys, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake
Nashville's
up.
coming.
Yeah, Bama is right there. And then Ole Miss has dropped extremely low, which was not anticipated before the season. So I think it's really interesting to see how all of these teams are starting to shake out in the SEC. Football is always very entertaining. And so I think that even more so with all of the stuff that we talked about last block has been extremely entertaining, which another very important game that we'll talk about in the next block is going to be Texas A&M versus LSU.
I mean, we still have a month left of college football, so there's going to definitely be some more shakeups like we mentioned earlier. It's going to be that week-to-week chaos, so we're definitely going to see some changes. For me, I think I've already keep hitting this nail on the coffin right now, is about Army and the Navy right now in the ACC, in American Conference right now. First off, first time since 1960 that two teams have been ranked in the top 25, which is an Army and Navy. They are both two teams that are undefeated as well, and they're on the top of our conference right now. So can we talk about that? Especially, I want to really hit the nail on the coffin about Army's quarterback, Bryson Daly. This man has rushed over 900 yards right now. This is a running type quarterback. He is a very impressive type quarterback. I mean, he has about 600 passing yards, but when I tell you this man can run, I've never seen a QB run the way they run. So now the real talk is, Are we going to see the Army or the Navy get into a playoff talk? I don't know, but I think we're definitely going to see them definitely in the American Showdown for sure, because they're going to play each other at the end of the conference. But definitely for the championship ring, I don't doubt we're going to see Army Navy. And that definitely changed my mindset, because I thought I was going to see Memphis because they were predicted going pretty well into preseason. I also thought Tulane was going to be up there as well. But as we can see how the cookie has been crumbling, it's not been going that way. But Army and the Navy have been impressing me a lot. It's been very frustrating as somebody who's big on UNT and big on the American Conference to see the way how it's been panning out for them. But man, their stats prove that they are a well-oiled machine. But Navy does play Notre Dame. The Army plays Notre Dame. So do we see one of the two of the teams beating them, or will Notre Dame beat them both? I definitely think that Notre Dame, we'll probably talk about a little bit later, but I think there's a possibility that the Navy is going to get their first loss.
America.
America.
Yeah, those two teams have been awesome, and it's a night and daily difference when Bryson's actually healthy, because he wasn't healthy last year for Army.
Yeah, for real, like 6'2", 200 pounds, stiff arming guys, pushing everybody over.
Know,
he should be an O-lineman. Man's literally running quarterback. Like,
yeah,
what is this?
He could be one of our defensive linemen. Actually,
Please come over. Please come over to you. Transfer over.
Yeah, it'd be a night and daily difference for our defensive line too. The Army and Navy performing how they have up to this point has been awesome to see. I mean, these two teams were honestly not that great the last few years. Navy hasn't been this legit since pre-COVID, so that's like 1996 for me when I use analogies to describe myself at UNT. Army, they were up and down last year. Again, they really couldn't stay healthy. They've stayed healthy so far this year. We'll see how they do when they face higher caliber competition.
For sure.
Now, we are not even in November yet. Army is 6-0 in AAC play. They got 2 games left in conference play, and one of them is against a struggling UTSA team. And then the other game, by far the most difficult conference game from a power rating standpoint, is going to be against us in Denton in November. So that's going to be a really exciting game. We can play UNT, North Texas. The Mean Green can play the wild card team in the American. We've already played Memphis. We gave them a really good game. We also host those great East Carolina Pirates. Pirates haven't found their treasure this year. I don't know what's up with that. But we also host Tulane today, and we host Army in a couple weeks. We can really play like that wild card team. And as we discussed earlier, that the American's really top heavy this year, so that's going to be really exciting. There's a lot of just exciting conference races that we really haven't seen as much in the past, because typically of your used to be 10 FBS conferences, now 9. I would say like 5 or 6 of them are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and then something that I'm looking forward to, just looking at throughout this year, is the Big 12. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but the Big 12 has been chaotic. We expected it to be chaotic just because with Texas and Oklahoma leaving, there's no more like top dog powerhouse that's just dominating in talent, dominating in just blue chip recruits and stuff like that. So the Big 12 has been chaotic as expected. We have Colorado, Kansas State. Kansas State with Avery Johnson, I really, really like. They're just a really well-coached team. They have a really good offensive line. They bring in Dylan Edwards from Colorado last year as a running back. He's performed really well this year. The wide receiver core isn't as good as you'd kind of expect it to be. However, it's good enough to win in the Big 12. This conference has been wildly entertaining. We have Iowa State and BYU both undefeated, both ranked in the top 15. I picked Iowa State to go in the preseason to win the Big 12. I'm sticking by that pick because they're undefeated. But BYU's looking like a real contender. They really are. They've surprised everyone. They are not favored, as you mentioned against UCF today, and that's just because the talent level on that roster isn't where it needs to be. Vegas loves talent on the rosters. They love the blue chip recruits, 4 stars, 5 stars. They love that blue chip ratio when determining who's favored in these games. UCF has a much higher one. They've actually recruited pretty well since joining the Big 12. Gus Malzahn's done a good job over there acquiring talent. It just hasn't meshed together, especially with their quarterback play. KJ Jefferson just didn't cut it out of Arkansas. But nonetheless, they're still favored against BYU this week. We could see an upset there. Texas Tech, they lose badly to Baylor in a game that they should not have lost at all. I mean, Baylor's not a very good football team. They almost beat Colorado also. That might speak more about Colorado than it does about Baylor. Texas Tech is still in this race. They only have 1 conference loss. They only have 1 loss on the whole season. We saw what they did to North Texas.
we all witnessed that.
We all witnessed.
So Texas Tech is still in this thing as well. This conference could go a bunch of different ways, and not all of these teams play each other either. So it's going to get even more chaotic. Same with the SEC. A lot of those teams don't play each other.
Exactly.
So we're going to have. I would be shocked if we don't have like a 3-way tie for first in the SEC or the Big 12 by the end of the season.
So I'm going to piggyback off of what Wyatt was talking about with Texas Tech, and then our game against Texas Tech. So this is going to be discussing in regards to the increasing gap between the G5 and the Power 4. And this is something that was very, very predictable this year when you look at it from a matchup perspective of the individual games and the direction college football is headed. So the least amount of G5 over Power Conference teams results that we've had in a season in the college football playoff era was 15, and that occurred both in 2017 and last year. This year I made a take in the preseason that we would have the lowest number to date in regards to G5 over Power 4. Right now we've had 8 G5 over Power 4, including the world beaters of Georgia State against Vanderbilt. But when you look at the upcoming matchups, there are roughly 20 games left between the G5 and the Power 4, with the majority of those coming in Category 1. So what in the world is Category 1, Connor? I will tell you what Category 1 is. It has nothing to do with spreads. It has nothing to do with the fully positive individuals, also known as FPI, or Football Power Index, what most people go by there. But my Category 1 has to do with talent gap. So I don't care when the teams play, where the teams play. It's about who the teams are playing. What is the individual matchup between the two teams? What is the talent gap? I had 110 Category 1 games. I don't remember how many G5 over Power 4 there were overall, but I can tell you that's over half of the games by far. I mean, we're probably talking about 70, maybe even up to 80% of the games being Category 1. So far, there have been 95 Category 1 games played. 94-1 is the record for the Power 4 teams. And 89 of those 94 victories have come by double digits. That explains the increasing gap between the G5 and the Power 4. So you think I'm lucky to be 94-1 right now in Category 1? I'm not getting by with smoke and mirrors here. 89 of my 94 victories are by double digits. And the only loss, you might ask, is Northern Illinois against Notre Dame, which nobody saw coming. So we'll see. We got 15 Category 1 games left. We'll see what happens. But we're probably not going to be looking at a very high number of G5 over Power 4. My guess is probably around 10 or 11.
We discussed how college football is taking the shift of maybe like miniature NFL, especially with all the corporatization stuff. Yes. But a real mini NFL, or not even a mini NFL, but a mini development league is the G5 to the Power 4.
Yeah.
It is a direct pipeline for a lot of these places. If they don't recruit well in the high school, they can just go poach talent from a G5 team. And these players are not only excited to do that because it increases their opportunities to make it to the NFL, it's also because they get more NIL opportunities and potentially more playing time at some of these places. So the G5 to P4 pipeline is also another thing that's increasing that gap in skill between the two groups.
Yeah. And like the best talent in the G5 is getting poached, as you mentioned, to the Power 4. So like we used to have like Memphis and Cincinnati, UCF, Houston are no longer G5 teams, and those used to be like the top of the Power 4. So now all the best talent is now moving to the Power Conferences.
I think that you guys make a great point as far as the NIL and everything that has been going on with the corporatization of college football. But next up, we're going to be talking about the Denton festivities with UNT's homecoming game versus Tulane, so don't go anywhere.
And now we return to Fabric of Passion.
Oh, Hector, it will be so hard for us to part, but we must.
But, my love, what did I do? I thought we were meant to be together forever.
I am so disheartened to say that you're just not in style anymore. But you will be, to someone else, in a better place.
You're gonna shred me?
No.
I'm donating you to one of the many clothing donation boxes available on campus. There is one in the Union by the Syndicate and one on Union Circle Drive.
Oh, well, why didn't you just say so? I'm gonna be someone's new shirt.
I thought you'd be more distressed.
Oh, absolutely not. It was cramped in your closet anyways.
Maybe you would like to be shredded after all.
Did you know you have access to video equipment like DVDs, video games, and cameras? That's right, you do. Come on down to Chilton Library and fulfill your media dream. Located on the bottom floor next to the student sculpture. Hope to see you there soon.
Hey girl, you know you look good.
Welcome back to Mean Green Game Day. I'm your host, Jazzer Williams. I'm joined by Jalen Tucker, Connor Hibbett, and Wyatt Schott. Y'all, it is homecoming out in Denton. We are going to be celebrating homecoming versus UNT versus Tulane. We have Tulane as the favorite today. Unfortunately, I think that there's going to be a lot more to show as far as UNT that people are expecting. Now, we know that Tulane is a very run-heavy offense. I think that that's something that we need to focus on today. I'm hoping that we took that from the Memphis game and are putting that, it's like each week it switches off. Okay, this is passing week, this is running week. This is a game that should be very predictable for defense to be able to stop, because we know that they're a running team. They aren't pass heavy.
Yeah.
I think that that's very important for UNT's defense to focus on today.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for this game, it's only going to be possibly by 8 points in the game. So we're going to see a nail-biter type game as well. So we're going to have that shootout that was just very similar for Memphis, which is great. Great to see that we can score points. Great. But can we make the stops that we need to make? But looking at Tulane's, their schedule that they played, I haven't seen anybody super impressive throughout their season. So, I mean, we can see how we're going to match up against them. I agree with Jasmine. They are a more running type team. We're not going to see them throw the ball that much. But we said that last game, and things can change easily on drop of a hat. So it's definitely going to be what kind of film are we watching to prep us for this game? Because, yeah, it's homecoming game. It's an early morning kickoff. We're also on ESPN2, guys, so please go watch our game at 11 a.m. to watch us play Tulane, and hopefully maybe grab a win there.
I agree with you, Jalen. I think it's going to be a tight game, and I think it starts with our defense, and I think all of a sudden we're going to look like the 1985 Bears.
Yep.
Yeah. Our defense is going to have to be physical against Tulane.
Yeah.
So Tulane's head coach is John Summerall. This is his first year at Tulane. He was the previous Troy coach for the last 2 seasons. You guys remember what Troy was like in 2022 and 2023?
They won a lot of games.
Yeah, they were a pretty good team. And that was coming off of a season in 2021 in which they were 5-7. So they had a better coach that all of a sudden turned around that talent like that. We know what Tulane has in terms of talent. They've looked really good this year. Their only losses are to the Power 4 teams. There's that increasing gap again. John Summerall, though, is a legit coach, and his teams pride themselves on physicality, fundamentals, and not beating themselves. It's kind of like the opposite of us, not in terms of like we beat ourselves, but we're not really like physical, we're more finesse.
Yes.
So that's going to be an interesting matchup, finesse against physicality.
John Summerall will be an SEC head coach one day.
Yes.
100%. There's no doubt in my mind. That guy was really, really good at Troy. He was awesome at Troy, and Tulane is really, really good again this year. Their only losses were to Kansas State and Oklahoma. I mean, 2 teams had just outclassed them talent-wise, and they were one-possession games for a long time. I know that Oklahoma one finished a little bit tighter than what the final score actually showed. A pick 6 late is what did that. However, that Tulane team is really, really good. We talked about how this might be close. After that FAU game, a team that came into the season with 2 passing touchdowns, we allowed them to throw 3 for 350 yards and no picks.
Yeah.
I think any team can throw the ball on us. Tulane can throw the ball on us if they want to.
Yep.
And the reason that we hung in all of these games, like against Memphis, and we've won all these other ones, is because our passing offense has been wildly efficient.
Yes.
We've been a really efficient passing offense, and that's credit to the offensive staff, that's credit to the head coach, that's credit to the quarterback. All of them are on the same page and all performing really well. However, it is college football, and consistency is an issue in college football, and it's just football. You're going to have an off game, and if we don't perform at peak efficiency, this one will be more than just an 8-point game. Tulane will cover the spread and then some, and Tulane is very fundamentally sound. They don't turn the ball over a whole lot. They're not going to beat themselves. Tulane is not a team that's going to beat themselves. We're going to have to take it from them, and if we play any kind of inefficiency, if we play bad at all, we're not going to win. We're not going to win, and not only that, we might not even cover. So I would be surprised if UNT covers at 8-point spreads today.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to piggyback off of what you're saying. So we discussed earlier in the show our quality of performance against Memphis. Yes, we lost, but our quality of performance was really good. So you like a UNT program like us, so if you want to, whatever category, whatever tier that you want to put us in terms of the G5, we were not expected to beat Memphis. So when you play toe-to-toe with them, that probably means you're playing good or Memphis is not playing that good. Well, when you look at the tape, Memphis's offense at least performed very well. And so we stayed toe-to-toe with them, meaning we actually played really, really good. So where I'm getting at with this is that was our ceiling. That is not who we are as a floor. So if we don't bring that quality A-plus performance, then we shouldn't be expected to perform at that level. So going off of what Wyatt said, do we have any juice left? Are we tired? Do we have anything left in the tank? Because Tulane is just as good as Memphis, if not maybe a little bit better. And so we're going to have to bring our A-plus performance again to stay in it.
Which is not impossible.
It's not.
Not impossible.
Yeah.
It's just really hard to do. It's
Yes.
just difficult.
You just
especially
need
at the G4 or G5 level.
Right, and you need the things that can go right to go right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we have to jump out the gate hard during this game. I mean, we talked about the FAU game where we were down during that first half of the game. We cannot have that type of performance against Tulane because they were going to shut us out that first half. And then it's really going to be trying to crawl back that second. We have to come out the gate fast. I mean, obviously, we rely heavily right now on DT Sheffield as our running back, as our wide receiver. He is a great player. Blair Cartwright, another wide receiver that is a great player. We definitely have those strong key points in our offensive line, of course, but that defensive side of the ball, we have to cover. That's what's going to change for everything. I mean, DT, how fast that man runs is amazing. I mean, he's had play after play after play, especially against the Memphis game. He had so many carries that game. We are a very impressive side of offense, and that's great, and I love to see it. Because I think last year we were definitely a team that we were a weak-looking team. And now look at us, 5-2. We're almost bowl-eligible guys this season right now, which is great to see UNT. I mean, we still have the rest of our schedule to play out, but we have definitely been a team that's been reaching different. We're actually going over expectation that I thought going into the new season after that horrendous last season. So to see us really meeting our standards a little bit better, I just think defense, we have to step up. And that has to start, like we said earlier, with the coaching staff. What are you guys doing in those rooms and thinking, how can we improve as a defensive side of the ball?
I think that you make a great point. And as far as a week-by-week basis, when it comes to UNT and who they're playing, what I've been starting to do is what is the path for UNT to be able to win this game? And it seems like in every week, it is something a little bit different. I think that this week, offense has been very consistent for UNT, which is great. We love some piece of our team that is consistent. So we have our offensive side of the ball is very consistent. Defense, yes, it has been a little bit faulty as far as our secondary, as far as our run defense. But for this game, specifically against Tulane, if UNT shows up on the run defense, they could pass the ball on us. But if they show up on the run defense and we stop the bleeding somewhere, hopefully we can be a team that can make in-game adjustments and then just fully outright take the game. We don't have to worry about offense and defense. We just have to worry about one thing, is defense.
Yes.
That's it. That's all. If that's one thing that we can just patch up, if our offense stays consistent, then that's great. Now, if for some reason our offense just has a bad game, then we're not going to win.
Right.
So offense has, and that's a lot of pressure on Chandler Morris and his offense, but I think that they've earned that pressure.
Yes.
They've shown that they can consistently do well. Defense is something that we're still begging and pleading for to see if that's something that can happen. But I think that this is one of those games that Wyatt was saying how we can't drop the ball on anything. Like, we cannot beat ourselves because Tulane will push us around. And I love when UNT jumps out in the beginning and gets quick points early. I think that's something that's very doable for this UNT offense. So the only thing we need is defense. And that's much easier said than done for this UNT program. But if we can stop the bleeding on the defensive side of the ball early and get points early, dare I say it, we could make this game a win.
Yeah, and I think we need this type of win. I think that can really shift our momentum.
On homecoming?
On our homecoming.
That would
it can
be amazing.
shift the momentum of our team and to see this is the type of team that I want to see and I want to watch. If we can shift the momentum. I really believe that it's going to be a close game if defense accepts the ball. And I really want to say props to head coach Morris. I think he's been having so far a great year with the team, him being the second year as the head coach here. I think he's definitely been having moments of impressiveness. But like you said, I think our defense it's the key, and it's been the key for the last 2-3 years now, is just the defensive side of the ball and making sure that we're able to stop these types of plays.
Yes. So I see on the rundown here, is there a path for UNT to win? How about is there a path for UNT to play for the conference championship, and there's a yes on both of those things. So in regards to this individual game, Tulane is like the rich man's Wyoming. So Wyoming is obviously not very good this year, right? But their pace of play is similar to that of Tulane. Here's the problem. Tulane actually has dudes. So if we can somehow control the pace of the game, get Tulane out of their pace, we got a shot to win this game. But if we win this game, we host Army. Army's currently undefeated in conference play. We only have one loss. If we were to beat Army and Tulane still plays Memphis. We lost to Memphis head-to-head. But Memphis already has a conference loss to Navy. So if Memphis loses again, there's no tiebreaker there that favors Memphis over us. So we are in control of our own destiny. That is all the point I'm trying to make. I am not trying to say we will, but what I'm saying is there is a path.
Really quick, I have a path to UNT win is score more than Tulane. Whoa. But there is some seriousness to that in terms of like we have to score a lot of points. Like we have to probably score 45 or plus or more.
That's our team at this point.
Yeah, because Tulane's going to move the ball as much as they want.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that's going to be very interesting, and this team is going to be scary good if we can get our defense locked in. But next up, we're going to be talking about our predictions and all of the things that we are going to be talking about as far as college football today.
Glad to me means a safe space. It means a place where I can just kind of hang out, have fun, and just be around other queer people. There's drag shows that we attend, other movie screenings in collaborations with some of the film guilds. We run fundraisers for both charities and for our own organizations. Just the general support from everybody, it blew me away, and I had never really seen that from an organization before, so I was like, screw it, I'll join.
Why should you join Talons?
We are very welcoming to people who may be a little bit hesitant. There's people currently right now in our organization who are in leadership positions who were hesitant before to join, and they found out that they just loved the organization and wanted to be a bigger part of it. They post about the football games, everything they're doing, all their events that they host.
What's the best part about Talons?
I would say meeting new people, because the university, while it's a kind of small campus in terms of like physical land, there's a ton of people here. And so getting to meet all these people who have so much school spirit and love for this university and wants to spread that to other people, it's kind of like a little miniature family that we're in.
Talking about our predictions for all of the games that are going on in college football in Week 10. First up, we have our SEC undefeated. Someone's going to leave undefeated, and someone will not. Obviously, that's how games work. First of all, we have 8 LSU at 14 Texas A&M. Now, obviously, it's very difficult, I think, to play at Texas A&M. I'm going to pick LSU just because I'm a little bit unsure as far as LSU's team still. They did get that big win, but I'm going to go with LSU just for the fact that I think that Texas A&M hasn't been playing as difficult of a schedule. And so with that being said, they are really high right now, but I think if they were playing more difficult teams, that would show differently. I do think that Texas A&M is definitely improved, but I'm going to pick LSU just in this instance.
Yeah, I think like you said, Jasmine, mentioning playing in College Station is not easy. Those fans are definitely rowdy for sure, but I'm going to have to choose the home team for this instance here.
I'm going to go with A&M, the home team here. When you got like a toss-up like this, this game I assume is going to come down to the wire and be a one-score difference. So in those kind of games, I'll just go with the home team. But I don't really know how good, like legit LSU is. I think their quality performance in close games has been really good for the most part, I guess outside of their game against USC, in which they lost in a close game. But yeah, I'll go with A&M.
People always talk about how hard it is to go play at Kyle Field, but teams go in there and win all the time. A&M don't win a lot of games. It might be loud in there, but it don't stop teams from winning. With that being said, I got Texas A&M. Not because of their home field advantage, but because I don't think LSU's that good.
Fair enough.
I'll take that. Next up, we have number 12 Notre Dame versus 24, our American Conference buddy, Navy. I'm going to go with Notre Dame. We have been talking about how good Army and Navy is, but I think that Notre Dame is just at a different level between, American Conference. I think that Notre Dame has just been, they've had their downfalls throughout the season, but I think that they're still a really solid team. I think it'll be close. I don't know how Navy will measure up to Notre Dame in this instance.
I personally don't think it's going to be close. I think this is going to be Navy's actually first time real test playing a type of game like this. They really haven't playing no teams to their caliber, so I'm going to choose Notre Dame for this game. I think it's going to be exciting to see our fellow friend here, Navy, play against a big caliber team, but I don't think they're going to live up to that standard here.
We are going to find out how good Navy is, because Notre Dame is not going to sleep on Navy like they did with Northern Illinois. So both teams are going to bring their A game here. I'm going to go with Notre Dame in this game, and I would not be shocked to see Notre Dame cover that 13.5-point spread.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Notre Dame as well, but Notre Dame, there's a real path for Navy to win this game because Notre Dame's offense is it's just at a level where it's not guaranteed against anyone. It's not guaranteed against air. Like Notre Dame's offense just isn't great and it's not consistent. So if they don't show up today and Navy controls the time of possession, Navy can win this game.
Next up, we have number 5. Just wanted to put a pause in there for that. Number 5, Texas versus at 25 Vanderbilt. I just had to clear that up, guys. Number 5, Texas. But still, I'm going to go with Texas because I don't think that Vanderbilt is going to beat Texas, but I think it would be very interesting to see how Vanderbilt performs against Texas, considering that Vanderbilt beat Bama. So that would just kind of show a little bit of game comparison, like, okay, Vanderbilt measured up against Bama. How does Vanderbilt measure up against Texas? So I think that'll be telling in itself.
I mean, we're not going to lie, Vanderbilt did have a great game against Bama. But I'm also going to choose Texas for this game. I think they need to bounce back against Georgia. But Vanderbilt just came out of nowhere really this season. So I definitely agree. I'm definitely interested to see how they are going to measure up to Texas. But I think it's still going to be one of those games that's going to be probably between like a 2 to 3 touchdown type win for Texas.
Nashville, Tennessee, here we go. This is going to be a good one. That's what I'm going to go with Texas. Vanderbilt's been playing to the level of their opponent, so Texas does have to bring their A game. I never thought I would say that a team like Texas would actually have to bring their A game to beat a program like a Vanderbilt. That's a compliment towards Vanderbilt. If Texas shows up, they will win decisively. I'm going to go with UT.
I didn't realize there were a bunch of comedians on the panel today. I didn't realize that. I wish I'd known. I would have brought some material, but I got Texas.
Next up, we have 21 Missouri at number 15 Alabama. I'm going to go with Alabama. I do think that they have been very disappointing, but I think that Missouri has been even more disappointing.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. Alabama has not had such a great start to their season on the way they've been playing, obviously against Vanderbilt, at Vanderbilt. So, and they're going to be at home, so I think they need these types of wins scattered through the season. So, yeah, give me Bama for this one.
Bama is the better team, and I don't even think Missouri is going to be fully healthy. Give me Alabama.
Yeah, give me Alabama as well. Missouri's not going to have their starting quarterback or their starting running back. It's just not going to be a good day for the Tigers. I got Alabama big.
I'm going to give Wyatt a quick shout out. He said before the season started that Missouri might go 8-4 and disappoint this year, and they're currently on the path to do just that.
I really hope they go 8-4. I want to look smart.
Next up, we have 11 BYU at UCF, and this is interesting. I'm going to go with UCF.
Yeah, I think it's definitely definitely be a great game to watch for sure. I also gonna go with UCF because I don't think BYU's been. They obviously their record shows great, but I don't know if they're gonna be at that caliber where they need to be. So yeah, give me UCF for this one.
Number 11 against an unranked team. Surely the number 11 team is favored, right? Yeah. No, as we discussed earlier in the show, they're not. This is one of those spots where everyone's going to be fading, or not really fading, but picking against what Vegas thinks here, and people will take BYU. Fade the public here. Take UCF. I'm going to feel responsible if BYU wins because I was preaching this a couple days ago that UCF would win this game. So my apologies if BYU does in fact win. UCF is in control of who wins here. If that gives you my train of thought here.
I'm going to go with UCF as well. If this game was in Provo, I would go with BYU for sure. But it's on the road. You're traveling all the way to Florida from Utah. It's just weird. It's just a weird spot to be in. And UCF out-talents you anyways. I got to go with UCF.
Yeah, we talked about those time zones, man.
And last up, we have our homecoming game out in Denton at Daku Stadium. we have UNT versus Tulane. I think everyone is really excited about all the festivities that are going on today. And if you are in Denton, you definitely have to go and watch. But I'm going to pick Tulane. Like I said earlier, I think that UNT's program is definitely on the rise. If they get this defense together, I think we will be leading the top of the American. But I'm going to go with Tulane just because our defense has been very inconsistent. On a game-by-game basis, I don't know how confident I am in either of their defenses as far as secondary and the run defense. It seems to be faulty depending on the game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Tulane.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think this is going to be kind of the games that's going to be, for me, unpredictable because I don't know. Maybe UNT might show up for this game, but I'm just going to have to pick Tulane for this game on the strength of our defense and the fact that we're not able to step up the way we need to step up. Now, UNT, please shock me. Please. I would love to see it because our gauntlet of our schedule. So, yeah, give me Tulane, but I'm still always going to root for our Mean Green.
Well, Tulane's the better team. Physicality typically wins over finesse. I think they got a great coach that I would never fade. And with that being said, I'm going to go with the Mean Green.
There you go.
I just can't pick against UNT my last year. Again, guys, I'm going to preach this on a week-to-week basis. My first year, my freshman year, I picked UNT every single game. Of course, we happen to lose almost every single one of those games that I picked us. But my last year being on NTTV, I'm going to go with UNT every single week.
There you go.
That's just beautiful, Connor.
I
got Tulane big. I think Tulane covers the spread. I think Tulane wins by 2 touchdowns. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. There's going to be Mean Green all over the walls.
Fade the Connor.
Yeah, fade Connor, guys. Fade Connor.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how this game shows up. I think that we all talked about that earlier in the blog to see how good UNT is going to be. It's an 11 a.m. kick, y'all, on homecoming.
Be there.
Yeah, so it's a little bit crazy, but I think that everybody's really excited to see that game. I'm personally excited to see the game because I really want UNT to do well. I think that there is a really good chance of them. They could take a win today. They really could. And that could is the key word. They could. But will they? We don't know. Guys, y'all have to go out and watch 11 a.m. kickoff, y'all, for homecoming. It's going to be so much fun. So definitely go out to the game. And if you can't, watch online. But thank you so much for watching this day of Mean Green Game Day. Next up, we have a lot of college football to talk about for next week. And hopefully, we have a UNT win that we can talk about on homecoming. But until then, follow all of our socials, and thank you so much for watching.